Wow, man. Like I said, hard to beat that opening, huh?
That was spectacular, man.
Don't want to let people down after that.
Right.
I think I might have overdid it. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you, man? We have entered, I guess, outside of the Matrix. I don't know. After that intro, that was just spectacular. I'm loving it. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, thank you. I just think it's nice to finally do a show that's outside the norm. That's a little more fun, a little more tinfoil hatty, a little something we can sink our teeth into a little bit and not have to worry about getting blown off of YouTube or something.
Right. I think it's very appropriate and long overdue. I think there definitely needs to be more conversations in this realm, as we talk about the supernatural, we talk about things that are biblical. Of course, everybody's looking forward to things that are biblical and things that are unknown, but have a lot of evidence.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And I just want to touch on that. Welcome, everybody. First of all, God bless you for being here. And this is the premiere episode of Exploring the Matrix. Hopefully, Joe and I will be able to do a bunch of these. And yes. I don't know what kind of viewers we're going to get tonight, but hey, if you join us, welcome. And I just want to preface everything by, we always say, don't take our word for it. Do your own research. This is just stuff that we believe, that we're not going to present as 100% fact, but we're going to present it as, hey, this is something we think you should take a look at, and maybe talk to your other tinfoil hat buddies if you got any, and hopefully start a conversation or start a little bit of a journey for yourself, and so hey, hopefully that's what it does.
Yes, I believe it will, man. I posted it up on Telegram earlier today, and I had people were saying that, oh wow, this should be good, based on the title.
I hope so.
I think we have a lot of people that want to explore the Matrix, see what's
real. I think that the time has come where we're in a society right now where nothing's taboo. Nothing is can't be a dinner table conversation, or can't be a water cooler conversation or whatever, and right. This used to be back in the 90s when I was watching the X-Files, and and then when Fringe came out, all this stuff used to be, keep it to yourself, or you got a close group of friends that you might talk to, or you might have pen pals, or you might have,
right,
back when they used to have internet chat rooms before the internet really blew up. You had all these anyway. So with that being said, hopefully this isn't going to be an all-inclusive, hey, this is everything you need to know about time travel. This is just going to be presenting some evidence, I guess, and some circumstantial, whatever you want to call it, to hopefully at least get your mind going in a direction that might not have gone down before, like a rabbit hole you may not have ever looked at. So
right.
I don't know how the formats are going to be for these shows going forward, so we're going to kind of wing it. So we both have stuff to present. We might alternate, present something, talk about it, present something else, whatever. So we'll just kind of wing it a little bit. But
yes,
hopefully are you able to share your screen? I just want to make sure you can.
Let's see. Yeah, yep. I can click the icon. And yes, I definitely can. Let's see. Yep, I can share it.
Okay. Yeah, just want to make sure that I'm not the only one. Okay. And I found out with StreamYard too that if you're sharing something with audio, you got to check the little box on the corner of the screen when you share the screen.
Oh, okay.
I found that out the hard way a couple times. So
yeah.
Get halfway through something and realize that there was no sound.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's the worst when you have no sound, but you're still going, and people are like trying to tell you in the chat, like, there's no sound, I can't hear you.
That's right. So I want to put this out there for everybody. when I was thinking about this show and when I was thinking about what to talk about, I kind of want to put time travel, or at least the idea of time travel, into two categories. One being seeing the future, and the other actually traveling to the future. So to me, there's a big distinction between the two, and I think it kind of gets confused a little bit. So hopefully when we talk about this, we're able to distinguish, like if we're talking about peering into the future or talking about actually going into the future. So I think there's a huge distinction that needs to be made, that again, and the mainstream just doesn't kind of make for anybody. You know, it's just like time travel, you go back, you go forward, that's it, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of schools of thought, and biblically speaking, you know, we know God, time means nothing to God. You know, time, past, present, future, all exists at the same time for God. And I kind of believe the same thing personally, that when the universe was created, when God created the universe, that literally all time, all space, everything was created at the same time. So every possibility, every version of you, every possible future, everything was created already. Like, it's not something that you have a ton of control over, I guess, you know, because Hollywood tends to portray time travel as consequences. Like, you can, you know, create your own future, you can create your own destiny, you can not that I'm saying that you can't do that. Right. I'm just saying that seems to be the main or the popular focus, is being able to manipulate time to your advantage. Right. And so with that being said, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I wanted to add a little bit to that too, because it's, you know, it's like while you were speaking, I was thinking of how now MSM, mainstream media, how in the past, you know, and even with movies and things like that and shows, they even use the whole UFO alien situation as something that was like make believe, or something that was, you know,
right.
You know, it was just entertainment or whatever. But now, you know, we're seeing that there's truth, that there extraterrestrial life, you know, within our galaxy, and you know, it's things are starting to come out now. Truth is starting to come out. So it's the same thing with time travel. I mean, you know, I personally believe that time travel is real. And, you know, most people think of that and they think of, you know, whether in the body or out of the body, you know, who knows? But as somebody who has pretty much experienced time travel, I believe it's real, you know, and it's kind of like just, you know, Paul was saying in the scriptures, how, you know, I knew a man who was caught up to the third heaven, you know, whether in the body or out of the body, he didn't know, you know, right. But he knew he was caught up to the third heaven, you know. So
even the book of Enoch, I think, mentions it.
Who's that?
I think even in the book of Enoch, it gets mentioned.
Yes.
When he's being shepherded around by one of the angels that's taking him around to the heavenly realm. And but
that's so true. It's so true. I mean, so it's truth. It's just that, you know, I guess, you know, you kind of leave it up to the people whether they believe it or not. You know, I guess most people would have to experience that. But I want to get into what the Bible kind of says a bit about it, because there is evidence in the Bible of time travel, and it pertains to Jesus. All right.
All right. Lay it on us.
I'm going to bring it up, share this scripture on my screen, and let's see if I can bring up the Bible here. And what I'll do is, there it is. All right. So Genesis chapter 18, and we're looking at verse 1. And of course, this is with the story of, you know, Sarah when she was laughing. You know, everybody remembers the part when Sarah was laughing, when the Lord told her that, you know, told Abraham that he would, you know, bear a child during this time next year, when the Lord was going to come back past that way. And so it says here in chapter 18, verse 1, and the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre. And he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. All right. And so, but look what it says. And the Lord appeared to him. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That word Lord actually means Yahweh. All right. The self-existent one. All right. The name of God. All right. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground. All right. Now let's skip down. And of course, we see in verse 3 as well, it says, and said, my Lord. All right. There's that word Lord again. Who is he talking to? All right. My Lord. Let's see. Let's see what that word Lord means. Adonai. All right. The name of God. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord. Master. All right. All right. So we're going to go down to verse 9. Look what verse 9 says. And they said unto him, where is Sarah, thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah, thy wife, shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of woman. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, and this is the part that everybody knows about. She's saying, after I waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And look what it says. And the Lord said, all right, let's look at this. And the Lord said, all right, who said, which Lord, what Lord said? The Lord said, guess what that word Lord means? It means Yahweh. All right. So this is saying that, to me, this is saying that one of those men was Jesus.
Yeah. Never would have thought of that. See, that's why I got you. I need this. I need the biblical references because I'm new to this, and it's like, that is kind of mind blowing, for somebody doesn't really, like, if you were just to read that, you would just kind of skim over that and you would never really pull that out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think that, that he would be using that word, the scripture would be using that word Lord for just some master, some guy who was a master, or, some great leader that came to visit Abraham. But no, this word Lord actually means Yahweh. And I've heard somebody talk about this years ago. I mean, I was like younger, and at the time, of course, probably everybody thought he was crazy. But later on, I began to read about this. I'm like, man, well, look, God could do anything. God can come as Jesus, or God can come as anybody, he chooses, but of course, Jesus being God in the flesh, I would say this is Jesus. Of course, this at that time, they didn't know, of course, Abraham, I'm sure he realized that it was God in flesh. Of course, right. He didn't know it was Jesus because he probably didn't know anything about Jesus,
right.
So to say, at that time. But of course, we know later on in years and hundreds of years to come in the Gospels, and Jesus comes. So this looks like an example of time travel as it pertains to Jesus being in that time as well during Abraham. So this is an example that I really wanted to share. If people talking about, some people may say, oh, time travel is not biblical. It's not, this is not that. I believe it's biblical. I believe it is biblical. And I just always ask people, like we say, do your own research, look into the scriptures, do your own research for yourself. Don't take my word for it, but let's all search together. The other thing I want to do is, since we talked about the scriptures, I want to also stop this sharing. And excuse me, I'm sorry if you hear any bumping. My kids are downstairs doing stuff.
We've all got something bumping behind us.
Yeah. But also I was watching a live stream. Did I get stuck there a little bit? Okay, I was watching a live stream of Prime Minister, and he was talking. This was like a little while ago, maybe about a month ago, and he brought up this book. I'm sure most people may know about this, with Baron Trump. I think it's called the Baron Trump.
Yes, The Adventures of Baron Trump. And
yes.
I actually have I'm going to be going into that.
Yes. Well, I want you to come in on this with me, because I'm looking at
Ingersoll Lockwood.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia novels, Wikipedia, where it's talking about the Baron Trump novels, and these books were written back in 1889 and 1893, and like, I mean, you know, this and what they were saying, as far as in Prime Minister's video, is that when you read the book, I haven't read the book yet, but they were saying everything that was talked about in that book, a lot of that stuff is happening now.
Right.
And then, of course, he was pointing to the fact that the boy in the picture on the cover
looks a lot like Baron.
Looks like Baron.
Yes, it does. So with that being said, well, about a year ago or so, a site showed up that kind of caught the Q movement by surprise a little bit, or by storm, whatever you want to call it. And I'll bring it up. It's the Ingersoll Lockwood site. I'm going to share this. Hold on a second here. So I'm going to read this, but I'm going to go to the actual site after this. So Ingersoll Lockwood is obviously the author of the Baron Trump and other books. About a year ago, when this site came up, there was really nothing to it. It was just a couple little like graphics, and I think it was actually blue colored. Now it's red colored. But within the last probably month and a half, maybe 2 months, this site is just blown up. Like, they've done a lot to it. They actually put a reading library on here as well. So I'm gonna read this real quick. It says our history. In the late 1800s, our namesake Ingersoll Lockwood delivered futuristic and visionary content over a century ahead of its time. He passed on this knowledge to S.G. Samuel Sr., who shared the Great Awakening. Does that sound familiar? Shared the Great Awakening plan, also known as the Plan for the New American Century, with Stephen G. Samuels, followed by our entire team who continue to carry on this tradition today. Our mission is to build a brighter future for humanity, starting with the resurgence of American exceptionalism. So when you look at that, I'm going to pull up the actual website.
Okay.
So when you go to the website, it's an actual official website now. So when you kind of browse through it, you don't really see a whole lot initially. But if you're familiar with Ingersoll Lockwood and that Baron Trump story, the people that go to this website are starting to think that, did the Q team or 45 have this site put up as a comm site? Because when you go to this site now, if you go where is it? You'll have some general stuff, like some descriptions of what they do. And they support a lot of, I guess, outside businesses. And like if you look at this thing on the bottom here, it says, "Save the bees, save our national food supply." And it says, IL note 13790. Oh, and don't forget to set the 90-day timer. And now I think somebody recently linked these two numbers to executive orders from number 45.
Wow, okay.
So with that in mind, let's go to... If you go to the library, they have a reading library. And in that reading library, they have Washington, The Heroic Drama of the Revolution, Strange Adventures of $1 Million, Wonderful Deeds and Doings of Little Giant Boab and His Talking Raven Tabib, Extraordinary Experiences of Little Captain Doppelkop and the Shores of Bubble Land, Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog Bulger, Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and that's probably the one that people know the most. But
Right.
Ingersoll Lockwood is involved with all of those. Now, if you go down to upcoming unreleased manuscripts, one of them is 2024 or The First President of New America, and then Travails of Time Travelers in 2030. So when we were going to do a show on time traveling, I had remembered I'd saw this, that this is an upcoming unreleased manuscript from Ingersoll Lockwood, from the company anyway.
Okay.
So when I saw that, I'm like, so let's, and you know how 45 was pushing the 1776,
Yes.
so you've got that on here.
Wow. Until 1776.
Right, yeah. But there's a lot of oops, sorry.
Oh man.
Like American Education Defenders is in their portfolio, American Health Defenders, Carbon Capture Shield, Cyber Defense Awards, Cyber Defense Magazine. So a lot of cyber stuff, which leads me to maybe they're going to get into the quantum computing thing or bring that into play here at some point. But down here, see where it says Space Force Labs right there?
Yeah.
Then it has Thorium Labs. It is rumored that, because in the Q drops, thorium is mentioned as being one of the free energy or the energy sources for humanity. I don't know how that'll play into everything, but hold on here. But a lot of these people that are on the board are all former military. A lot of them are. And it's for people that are interested in this kind of stuff and really as a good primer for time travel and even what's going on right now, the site's IngersollLockwood.com, and it's a very evolving site, and it just literally came out of nowhere.
Right.
And it talks a lot about the Great Awakening, and it talks about, American exceptionalism and basically how to make America better as far as like food supply and that kind of stuff, and cyber defense. And it's just a very interesting deep dive if you ever get to go, jump into it. So with that being said, we'll go to my first little slide here. Now, there is a woman named Leona Thompson. Her website is Lenora, not Leona, LenoraThompsonWriter.com. And if you go under the America blog, she's got a bunch of stuff. But she talks a lot about, at least in this series I'm going to show here, time travel. And she says, Tesla meets Trump meets Q. Can Q see the future? Parentheses, come on, we're all thinking it. Come on, this isn't a taboo subject. We're already all,
right.
We're already going down this rabbit hole. Let's talk about it,
Right.
So, and this is more along the lines of looking into the future and not physically traveling into the future kind of thing. This is still that same website.
What is the name of that website?
Sorry, let me go back here.
Ingersoll.
For the first one or this one?
Yeah, the first one that you had up.
Oh, the first one is Ingersoll Lockwood.
Oh, okay.
Right up there.
Okay. I want to keep that in my browser.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I'll put the link in the notes too.
Okay.
But I just think it's an appropriate time for that website because of the timing of all the stuff that's appearing on it right now and what's going on in the world.
Right.
And so I'm going to read a little bit of this. Well, maybe I'll read the whole thing. I don't know. It's not like I have to go to bed early or anything. Let's see here. Says, as I researched this article, it was natural for the line between simply viewing the future versus traveling into the future to become blurred. However, one detail about time travel became crystal clear. If someone goes all fame whore, and this is her words, claiming to have time traveled, they probably have not. And I kind of think that's a true statement, because if you think about all the stuff that's happened in the past of all the people that have claimed to be from the future, or, that all the pictures that are popping up on the internet about, these people being in these pictures from the early 1900s and that kind of stuff with cell phones and, or dressed like a beatnik or, whatever, or dressed like one of the Beatles or something.
Yeah.
So, that's one of those take it for what you will kind of thing. I personally believe that if somebody were to physically time travel, they wouldn't announce it to the general public. They would probably go to be meeting a specific person, or to influence a specific event, and then get the H out of there. And,
right. Pretty much.
Yeah. Not try to draw media attention to themselves,
Right.
Let's see. Just today I heard this is interesting. I'd never heard this story, and I thought I heard almost every time travel story. Just today I heard a 1970 story about a gentleman who, like my great-grandfather Harold, was hit by lightning. My great-grandfather was horribly burned and then developed a cancer which eventually killed him. But the lucky gentleman in our story simply vanished. After his family had frantically searched for him for 60 hours, he suddenly reappeared under a bush in his own garden, suffering from amnesia and wearing a different pair of trousers than the pair he was wearing when he disappeared. Slowly his memory returned, and he was able to retrace his steps during those missing 60 hours, only to discover that the doctor who treated him for shock and the trousers he was given to wear, at the hospital, were both from the 50s. This was in the 70s when this took place. The massive jolt of electricity had thrown him back 20 years in time. Now that's what I'm talking about as far as time travel. And in another story, a man was tootling down a country road when a 1950s car with a lady in 1950s garb suddenly materialized out of thin air. She looked extremely confused as she stared at him before vanishing as quickly as she had appeared. I believe it's called a time shift. Time and space suffer a glitch. If it can happen organically in real life without outside interference, just imagine what can happen if, and she goes on, I'll read that in a minute, but that kind of touches on the point that I was referring to earlier about organically time traveling, whether it's viewing or actually physically traveling in time. I think it happens a lot more than people realize. And I think it's a lot more organic than people realize. It doesn't, I don't think it's one of those things where it requires such a massive amount of energy or, like a massive amount of whatever, to get something done. But I guess it depends on, like she was referring to a glitch. Like if a lightning strike can cause a glitch or a tear or something in space-time, that automatically corrects itself because it seems like it was temporary, like it wasn't permanent. So is that something we have to think about? Is time travel, even whether you're visually looking or peering into the future or the past or going there, is it a trip that's limited in like length? Like, can you make yourself indefinitely stay there, or indefinitely view something, or does it snap back after a certain amount of time? Like, is there some kind of universal, okay, you're done, you're heading back now kind of thing?
Yeah. That's interesting. Very interesting.
But I really do believe that inherently, this is probably one of those things that eventually we're going to find out that humans have the ability to do. That's been suppressed for such a long time that there's a gentleman named Bill Wood who's going to be in a video I'm going to show here in a little bit, who was a Navy SEAL. He was recruited into a secret program. He was in a group called SEAL Team 9. And it's like SEAL Team 6. You don't know about it until something happens, Exactly. So, exactly. But he had mentioned that because he talks about Project Looking Glass, which is kind of the focus of what I wanted to talk about eventually here, in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
The idea of being able to peer into the future and the past at the same time and see the events that you're in currently as you're changing them, how it affects the future, or like what the possible timelines are, what the possible outcomes are. Right. Because he talks about 2012, because this was in 2008, I think, when Carrie Cassidy interviewed him, that the people that were involved in Project Looking Glass, and it wasn't white hats initially, it was like the people we don't want to have this technology are the ones that had this technology, whether it's black hats in the military or whatever. We're freaking out because 2012 was kind of a crossroads. Like there was no going back from 2012. Like all of these past, no matter what you did at a certain point, no matter what you did would change the outcome. Right. And they were freaking out because 2012 was not going their way, kind of thing. Like that crossroads, once it was hit, there was no going back. That's when they started building the bunkers in New Zealand and all the other stuff, because they wanted to ride it out underground. But anyway, we'll get into that a little bit. But
that's deep.
yeah, like I said, I don't want to go too deep into it. Just kind of give a little bit of a little primer on time travel, I guess.
Yeah.
So she goes on to say in 1943, when Nikola Tesla passed away, the Office of Alien Property, I love that name, Alien Property. I'm guessing they mean foreign, like from another country, because even though Tesla had been in the country forever, he was still technically an alien, I guess.
Yeah.
Office of Alien Property swooped in and stole everything.
Yeah.
We all know that story.
Yeah.
Tesla's notes, letters, diagrams, schematics, everything that should legally have gone to his nephew, Sava Kosanovic, the U.S. government filched. But they didn't have the knowledge to know what they had. The FBI needed someone techie to go through all of Tesla's papers and report back to them, supposedly to keep any weapon designs from falling into the wrong hands. After all, this was 1943 and World War II was in full swing. And this is where things get really interesting. They chose an MIT electrical engineering professor to review Tesla's papers. His name was Dr. John Trump. So Trump's uncle was the guy that was called in to look at Tesla's stuff that nobody else was able to see. Wow. And to determine whether, hey, should we be worried about any of this? Or any of these like doomsday weapons? And if they are, how can we get them or use them? Right. So with that being said, I just think it's interesting that we get into Tesla, time travel, and the Trump family, right? Ingersoll Lockwood, yes, with the Baron Trump. Then you've got Tesla with John Trump, and now we have Q with number 45. So you've got it's almost like a family history of, I don't want to say time travel, but knowing what's going on, like knowing potentially deep secrets of governments and of science and of the universe, and right. So I just think it's really too much of a coincidence that family has been involved at that level, with 3 family members being involved at different periods of time, right? Starting with Baron Trump. Yes. So let's see, past, present, future. This is the same woman. The experiments of Tesla in high voltage electricity, along with magnetic fields, writes Sean, I can't pronounce that name, led him to discovering that time and space may be deformed to essentially create a door that may lead to another time. So, and that's another theory that is kind of a common Hollywood kind of theme. I don't know if you remember seeing like Quantum Leap, that show that was back in the 90s or whatever it was. I think that was the idea of that. And same with Sliders. I don't know if you remember that show, Sliders. It all involved creating massive amounts of like electricity to create like these giant electromagnetic or concentrated electromagnetic fields that kind of opened a doorway or bent space time or whatever. And you can like walk through it kind of thing. Yeah. So that kind of leads to a whole nother outside of time traveling, leads to the whole idea of the multiverse and the whole parallel universe kind of theory, and which is kind of what I subscribe to, because I don't believe that you could actually go back in time and like kill your grandfather. I like to say whatever that effect is, like you go do something back in time to prevent something in the future from happening or in the present from happening.
Yeah.
I think you just traveled to another parallel universe and you're never coming back to this one. Like, so whatever you did is only going to affect that one. So
Exactly.
That's just my 2 cents on that.
No, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
It says Tesla told a reporter he was in contact with the resonance from the electromagnetic charge. He had found that he went out of his space and time window. He said that he had been able to see the past, present, and the future at the same time. And these are Tesla's words.
Yeah.
And Tesla was no joke. And that's just what we know about him. Like,
right.
I can't even imagine the stuff that he, really was working on.
Right. The stuff that was stolen and all that stuff. I like to see all that, man.
Yes. It says then in 1943, the Philadelphia experiment occurred, thoroughly debunked, of course, which launched sailors not only through space, but also time. If people remember, I think there was a movie about it.
Yeah, I was about to say, wasn't there a movie called?
Yeah, like they were showing like people were part of the bulkhead or whatever, like the way space-time shifted, like nothing came back in its original position. So people died because like their arms are sticking out of the metal and that kind of stuff and whatever. Yeah. So let's see. Then there was the Montauk Project, which is not as well known of a project, which I have not personally studied a lot. I have studied the Philadelphia experiment. There was a reference to a 1960s Navy technology that could be used to view a visual scene from any historical period. And that's that viewing thing, not traveling, just viewing.
Right.
And again, it reappears in 1989 when Area 51 whistleblower Bob Lazar mentions Project Looking Glass, we'll get into that later. Sadly, they allegedly used homeless children in their experiments, sending them through the portals of time, which may also partially explain how 500,000 children go missing in the United States each year. Little does she know, there's more nefarious reasons why kids disappear.
Exactly.
than sending them through a time portal.
Oh, yeah. Little did they know.
All right, so I'm going to stop there and I'm going to let you continue now. So if you want to add to that or switch gears for a minute or whatever.
No, the Project Looking Glass, I definitely want to get into that because I believe that is a technology, of course, that, that is out there now. I believe that, the white hats are using that. Like it was always said too that, and I believe there's documentation about Tesla talking about, how he got a lot of his knowledge and a lot of the information, and facts to his experiments from the galactics, from
right.
quote unquote extra terrestrials that have, showed Tesla about their technology and kind of gifted him with information about the technology. And but I believe that technology is still, of course, here to this day. Of course, they have it all covered up. But I'm looking forward to the day when right. It's all disclosed,
something. It's like,
yeah,
give us something, man.
Yeah, something. I mean, because they have so much, that, I mean, we can't even just wrap our minds around it, it's just amazing. But when it does come out, I believe it's going to really do good for humanity for a long time. And, just the Looking Glass, I mean, I think that's going to be really good to be able, to look in the future, past, and to be able to help, prepare and for things in the future. For the good, not for the bad, because now this technology is going to be out of the hands of a lot of evil people.
From my understanding, and this is again going on what Bill Wood said, he was the former Navy SEAL in these secret projects. Actually, he was recruited into a secret project that involved Tomahawk missiles. He was they worked in groups of 3, and I guess in the Gulf War, in the Persian War, whatever you want to call it, the Tomahawk missiles were about 70% accurate to their targets. So they got a bad rep. You'd see in the news, like a baby food factory was bombed or whatever, instead of like a military target or whatever. So to kind of alleviate that, he was recruited into this project that basically once they fired the Tomahawk missile, they would have already been on the ground at the target, and they always had the hardest targets. And they would take control of Tomahawk missile once it became inbound. So they would actually have controls like you would like a video game or a airplane or whatever, and they would actually take control of the Tomahawk missile and guide it into its target. So it made sure it destroyed the correct target. So that was what most of Kerry Cassidy's interview was about. It's like a 2.5 hour interview, but when you get into about the 2 hour mark or somewhere around there, he starts talking a little bit more about other things he was exposed to. And one of them was Project Looking Glass. He didn't have direct knowledge of it, but he had seen documentation and knew people that had some knowledge of it. And I've got some video clips I'm going to show of it. I don't want to give it all away, but from what I understand from what he was saying is that once they figured out 2012 was like December 21st, 2012, I guess was like D-Day for, let's just call them the bad people. And they were all freaking out because no matter what they were doing, I guess the way Project Looking Glass worked was that they created this like mist kind of vortexy, misty kind of thing. I don't know the exact details that you could peer into, and you could actually see, like you were seeing the past and the future together, sort of. So like you could see how events were affecting future outcomes.
Okay.
And it was like those like visions or what people were seeing were fed into a computer. They didn't say quantum computer, but I'm assuming it's a quantum computer.
Yeah.
And that it would predict these possible outcomes. So at some point they realized that no matter what they were doing, everything they were seeing was leading to this date of point of no return where it wasn't going to end well for them. Like it was going to be the beginning of the end of their reign, I guess.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
And these are his words back in 2008. He had talked about a great awakening, and he had talked about there would be a point where it would be impossible to keep the truth from the public eye when it came to these people. Yeah. And he talked about these people building, underground bunkers and underground cities and all this other stuff to try to avoid, in their mind, the coming Holocaust for them. And so it's just the whole idea of Project Looking Glass was interesting. And he did state that there were more than one device, and that the White Hats eventually got, or what would become the White Hats eventually. And he called them Oath Keepers. Where have we heard that word before?
Oh, wow.
He said this was these were people in the military that regardless of the orders and whatever they were given, they still believed in the Constitution. They still believed in humanity and still believed in doing the right thing. Right. And he said this group was called the Oath Keepers. And he said they were directly involved in a lot of this, and they've eventually got their hands on or were able to create a looking glass machine. Wow. And he said some of the technology used to build the looking glass was from these tubes from, I guess, before ancient Sumeria, like the same stuff they were using to build these stargates. And so the two programs were kind of tied together. Oh. But he said that at one point, no matter what anybody did, nothing was changing in the outcomes. It was always the same outcome. He said so that his understanding was that those machines were decommissioned. Like they're not in use anymore. Like they stopped using them because no matter what they did, nothing was changing. Like this was an inevitable, kind of thing. And that's why I think the whole Q movement and the whole Great Awakening, this whole has been around for a really long time. Like this has been in the works for a really long time. So take it away. Sorry. I have a tendency to go ramble on these rants or these side tracks, it's just kind of.
It's so true. And I think, well, I mean, we kind of see the evidence of it being around for a long time, and also being something, that the CABAL is totally terrified of.
Right.
Because you see how they're taking it and they're switching it, in mainstream media, and they turn it into something that is not. So that tells you that, they don't want the masses to know the truth about this because they know this is their end, even though their end is already, I believe it's already done. It's just a matter of it manifesting and, kind of weaving out all the little stuff. But
right. Yeah. And that's the whole idea of what I think Bill Wood was trying to say was like, this is pretty much all inevitable. And this was, like I said, back in 2008. And
so I mean, it's like now and that's why, our leadership, Mr. T and the White Hats and all of them are always saying that, they can't stop what's coming. I mean, it just can't be stopped, so they're, of course, they'll continue to fight until, they're gone. You know what I mean? So it's like fighting for nothing.
And one of the video clips I'm going to show, he does mention that. He mentions 2 chess players. Mm-hmm. And he says, like, imagine 2 expert chess players, and one of them knows that he's going to lose, but he still keeps making moves until the end, kind of thing. But we already know who the winner is going to be.
Right.
He said, though, if you're an audience looking at it and you know anything about chess and you're observing it, you already see who's going to win. You already know that. And they know that too. You're just playing out the game now, and you're just playing it till the game's over. Mm-hmm. So I think that he also said that, and I don't know if he's the only one, but he said with the looking glass technology, you had to be like an ascended person. You couldn't be a regular Joe Schmo off the street that had doubts and was worrying and what. Like you had to have some kind of a self-awareness or control over your mental capacities, because he said if that person would use the looking glass, it would taint the results because what they were putting into it was tainted. Like, so it always give these skewed results. And he said one of them, he mentioned this specifically, he said one of the results was Hillary Clinton being president in 2012. And he said that was one of the ones, if I remember correctly, that they were concerned about.
Yeah. Weren't we all?
Little do we know, but that he was trying to prove a point that, it's like any kind of computer, put bad information in, you're going to get bad information out. Right. So he said it took special people. And he said part of his training, which I thought was interesting, he said he had one class, he had classes in all these secret institutions or areas. He said he had one class at Area 51, and I believe they just called it psych. Like that was the name of the class. And that was the only class he took there. But he said that if you ever saw the movie Star Wars and the knew about the Force and that kind of stuff or whatever, he goes, if people knew that these were abilities that they could do, that they just needed training to do them, their minds would be blown. He goes, I learned so much there, like, meaning that he advanced himself, like he advanced like his humanity, I guess. And his whole team, like this whole team had to train there and had to take these classes or this class. So he said, we were the kind of people that would be recruited to use the looking glass. Like he didn't directly himself, but he said people that had this kind of training that were more self-aware and had a higher consciousness, were the ones that were using the looking glass, because they gave pure results. Like they would give accurate, verifiable results, I guess, over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just interesting, the whole concept of that type of time travel, because you're just observing and you're affecting the outcome in real time. Like like you can actually see the changes as you're doing it.
Right.
So
yeah, it's something that's real powerful. But yeah, let's get into those videos. I like to see that too.
Well, do you have any other stuff? Because I've got a ton of stuff. I don't want to take up the whole.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much all I have. So if
All right.
we're about 51 minutes in. We were going for about an hour.
Whatever, doesn't matter. Like I said, I don't have to go to bed early or anything.
Yeah, I gotta get to the family in a little bit. So
okay,
about 8 o'clock. But yeah, I like to see those videos. Definitely like to see that. We could talk about that a little bit.
All right, let me add this real quick. This is the same woman. She does get into the Q stuff, and I just want to touch base with this because it's part of what we're talking about. And she says, and here we find ourselves back at Q post 3585, which reads Project Looking Glass, ?
Ooh.
And then it says going forward in order to look back. So, and we always know that in the other posts, future proves past. So I just find that, again, you've got that whole connection with 45, with his whole family, with Tesla, with Looking Glass, this whole, So she says, Q repeats the phrase future proves past 51 times in all the drops. If you search future proves fast, geez, can't talk.
I say that 10 times.
Future proves past 51 times.
Yeah.
So let's see. So basically, if Veritas Legio, whoever that is, Facebook post is correct, I have not seen this post.
Mm-hmm.
The Black Hats had this future viewing time travel technology, and now the White Hats have it as well. That puts a new complexion on the battle between good and evil currently raging. It's not merely a battle in the here and now, but one informed by the future. The chess game just added a few more dimensions. So I think that somehow his Uncle John, somehow got involved with the Looking Glass, and that family has had access to it for a while. And I think, again, this is total just conjecture, could tie into the whole, not Junior, but Kennedy Sr. and his assassination and that kind of stuff, or his fake assassination, whatever.
Right.
Like being able to pull these people out of harm's way, knowing that it's going to happen, kind of thing.
Right.
Like, okay, since you're in the Bay of Pigs, you're talking about getting on the gold standard, and the central banks are going to try and kill you, or the CIA or whatever. We're gonna do something to pull you out.
Right. Yeah, I believe it.
And then she talks a little about Ingersoll Lockwood, which I'm not going to talk about, but it shows the picture of little Baron there.
Right.
You can kind of see a little picture of him in the drawing and a little picture there. It's very similar. I'm not going to say they're exactly the same, but they're similar for two kids approximately the same age,
So, like, when did this book pop back out? Because that's one of the things they were saying on the when I was watching the live stream with Prime. It's like that book kind of like popped back out out of nowhere. And
well, that's when when people really started paying attention to what was going on. There's been some people that have been involved since 2017, since the beginning, but when more people started waking up, I think late 2018, 2019 is when this kind of resurged a little bit.
Okay.
And then especially early 2020, it got a lot of attention. And so, of course, people attack it, and it's like, that's a blah, blah, blah. And then people don't realize too, there's also a book written about Hillary Clinton, Alice in Wonderland. And we know Alice, the whole White Rabbit, and Alice and the Looking Glass. And so I'll just throw that out there. If you want to research Hillary Clinton, Alice in Wonderland, you'll find a book. It's on Amazon.
Okay. I'm gonna check into that.
It's out there.
Yeah.
Now, this talks a little bit about Ingersoll Lockwood real quick. It says last year, a new corporation, Ingersoll Lockwood Inc., sprang up out of nowhere, incorporated in Delaware, renting, probably virtual, office space at 1717 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Wow.
And put up a really kick-ass website. They claim Ingersoll Lockwood passed down his knowledge to their chairman and CEO, Stephen G. Samuels, or maybe in Samuel's family. The website changes from time to time, and it's changed a lot recently. Like I said, it's changed a lot recently. I could almost do a whole show just on that website.
Oh, okay.
I found it interesting, too, that Ingersoll Lockwood made this pocket watch over here that underneath where it says Ingersoll, it has the word Trump.
Wow.
And there's one that looks like it's even older that says the Trump on it. And then, so take those for what you will. But interesting time pocket watch, the word Trump on them. You know, here's a bigger, more like a bigger close up of it, I guess.
Wow, that's amazing.
Of course, made in the USA.
Yeah, exactly. Greetings to Amy from Louisiana. It's in the chat. How you doing, Amy? Got a couple in the chat checking out everything.
Yeah, I didn't see them. Like first one's all stream. I'm like, oh my god, took me by surprise.
Yeah, Amy, you're the first. You're the first for this stream.
So I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but welcome, Amy, and thanks. All right, now here's another thing that I've looked into, and I know a lot of people have, but I just think this is way too much of a coincidence that his uncle and Julian Assange could be either brothers, sisters, sons, whatever. Like they could be totally related.
Wow.
Like these are his real parents. This is his dad down here, and this is his mom down here.
Okay.
So who knows what the tie is with that, but that is just an eerie, like WTF kind of, hey, it's just something to think about,
Yeah.
Because that family has ties to, as we know, the whole time travel conspiracy theory thing, we've been talking about, and Tesla and that kind of stuff. So, and we know, well, a couple days ago, it was announced some country is trying to spring Assange now. Like they're saying they're going to
Australia or somebody,
somebody, I don't remember. So sorry, whoever, don't.
Yeah, I think it was Australia, if I'm not mistaken.
Hello, Kyle.
Kyle, how you doing?
Number 2.
Virginia. Kyle from Virginia. Good to have you here, brother.
But I just think that,
look at that.
That is just an uncanny resemblance.
That's not a coincidence, man. That is
granted, they have slightly different features, but
the eyes,
yes, the eyes is what got me the first time. It's just like they have that same look. But we know a couple days ago, somebody announced that they're trying to release or get Assange released. So we'll see what happens with that. But I have a feeling that's one of those mother of all boomerang kind of things,
Yeah.
And,
oh yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw this, but that stone depiction on the left side there, I can't verify it. I don't know if anybody's actually verified it, but this is an ancient stone carving that bears an uncanny resemblance to President Trump, has turned an old English cathedral into a big league new tourist attraction. Tourists have been flocking to the South Westminster Church in Nottinghamshire ever since the 700-year-old sculpture, 700-year-old sculpture,
700
was spotted last year by British journalist Samira Ahmed, who instantly recognized the similarity. So I just think, again, since we're talking about time travel, a 700-year-old sculpture that just kind of looks like that,
It does, and it does.
It just, it's just kind of, take it for what it is. Take it,
Yeah.
for what you will. But interesting again, the whole time travel thing. Who knows? Maybe 45's been out hanging with the dinosaurs and stuff. Who knows? But
who knows? I mean, when it comes to time travel, I mean, hey, you never know.
All right, let me cue this video up and see. I've got the time stamps to the stuff on here that we were talking about. So let me go forward to, let's see, an hour 59.
Yes.
Oh, it doesn't show me how much time's passing. Oh, man.
All the complaining and all of the...
Okay. I had to do that just to get the timestamp here because it wasn't showing it to me before. So still not showing it to me.
Other of 9/11.
Great interview if you haven't seen it. It's Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot. She interviews Bill Wood. This was like back in 2008, I believe. Okay. And it's 2.5 hours and it's fascinating, but the last about hour is where I want to focus on here. Come on.
That
a facility.
We're getting warm.
Those vehicles exist.
He also talks about the space fleet. He says there's at least a dozen craft that he knows of that are out of Area 51 that's part of the United States space fleet that travels the solar system on a regular basis. He goes, they can travel to Mars in a day.
Wow.
So that's just another part of the interview there. But
okay, have you seen these vehicles yourself?
I've seen one type of one vehicle.
All right, let's move ahead a little bit.
And that would suggest that anybody with a decent telescope could take a look at both the surface of the moon and the surface of Mars. More specifically, the 2012 problem with
this is it right here. Talking about Project Looking Glass.
Okay.
Well, I guess popular opinion of what's out there right now is that the project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012. I've heard it described a number of ways, but to my knowledge, the problem is that the timelines converge on that point in time. And when you know enough about the Stargate projects and the Looking Glass project to know that how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean that the other choice couldn't exist at the same time. But once you get your brain wrapped around this subject, you find out that at the end of 2012, in an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make. And that's important to the people that had access to Looking Glass because they would use Looking Glass knowing the choices that they would make and the future would pop up. The big mistake was coming up with the possibility of future. And when we started using a computer to say, well, if we make this choice, it's 79% possible that this scenario happens, and 23% are possible or whatever, I'm using round numbers, that this scenario would happen. The understanding at the time was that was realistic. However, if you go down the road further and free will continues to exercise itself on this game, that 79% possibility sometimes changes very, very fast. But if you look at the situation in a point of time, it seems very realistic that that's the greatest possibility. What happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the looking glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret.
Okay, so is that certainly 2012 in your understanding?
It well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
Timelines.
time.
All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And what is that history to you? Did you know that, or did you find that out?
That is the big question. That is the big secret. That is what sends everybody that has all of the information, that knows everything, into a blind panic. The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game.
Uh-huh.
Nothing could be manipulated beyond that point.
So do you think that's held true? In other words,
I think that's an important, again, this is back before 2012 when he said this.
Right.
And so I think it's really that
Wait, so
statement.
what's the date on this? This
I
interview?
believe Carrie did this interview in 2008 or 9, somewhere in there.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So, but he uses the word panic a few times when he describes the people that are in the know. And again, he kind of intimated that the black hats, or the people that shouldn't have this technology, are the ones that had this technology first.
Mm-hmm.
And that eventually that the Oath Keepers and the white hats eventually got a hold of this technology as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the black hats started freaking out and started building bunkers and crap in New Zealand, because they knew after 2012 they had a very limited amount of time before their world was going to radically change. And he does talk about one of the possibilities for humanity is ascension.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, like that was one of the things in the Looking Glass that they had talked about. Let's see if I can pull this up here real quick.
Yeah, that's something too, because I remember they even had that all over the news, where even celebrities were looking to buy bunkers and
Much easier.
at places here in the United States, like huge mountains. They were,
notion of
Yes.
contractors and everything to make bunkers for them.
Yep.
can
All right. So 211. There we go.
well said. Okay, but are you aware? Do you know the difference between Looking Glass and the yellow cube?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I want to correct something I said earlier. She just mentioned the yellow cube. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's another technology that supposedly is like reverse engineered from our friends from out of town. And so there is Looking Glass, there's yellow cube, and some people call it yellow book. And that is the technology I was referring to, that the person that was using it had to be of a higher consciousness. Like if they were in like a 3D kind of mentality, it would always give them false results. So like this was for only an individual's future, like possible futures. So like the person that had the yellow cube could only see what was going to happen to them and their possible outcomes. Okay. So that's the technology I was referring to earlier. So sorry for misquoting that.
No, that makes sense now. That makes sense.
And are you aware of what happened to the yellow cube and how it was used and so on?
I believe that the yellow cube still exists. I can't say for certain if it's on this planet, but I would say that it's definitely protected from use at this point.
Okay, well, that coincides with the testimony we got. Can you also verify that leaders of...
But let me say one thing about the yellow book and its differences with Looking Glass.
Oh, he might actually explain it here.
The yellow, the yellow book would give you your possible future.
Yes.
So it took basically the choices that you would inherently make along a timeline and tell you what that timeline would be, given that you made all the choices that your brain would make.
Well, this is exactly what I was just going to ask you. What we were told is that leaders of governments and so on, people in high places, politically, would use this to try to see their most optimum future and then follow those. So they were using it to enhance their wealth, et cetera,
Yeah.
in a very egotistical way. And that was part of the problem with it.
All right. I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to stick to the time travel stuff and the other stuff we're talking to. Like I said, it's a very good interview if whoever wants to watch it, the whole 2.5 hours of it.
Okay. You said you'll have links in the description?
Well, I downloaded this video. Let's see here.
From this.
There we go. I have a piece of software that lets me download video without all the crap attached to it. So I save it on my computer, and it's not a link to a YouTube video or anything.
Okay.
So I can cut it up in software to use it for other things.
Okay. Well, you good. They're getting exclusive video. You guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Into that fear and accept that there's really
This is where he talks about a new beginning.
nothing that we know is going to happen, and accept of whatever happens, that makes the convergence of the timelines happen as naturally as possible. Any attempts to try to go away from this one inevitable conclusion, I again see as a new beginning, an end of this reality, the beginning of something that we can't even possibly understand based on the level of our beliefs currently.
And then he talks about, here's the master chess players.
Okay.
Of our beliefs currently. But when all that information comes flooding out, there's going to be no denying what's true and what's a lie or what's illusion.
The Great Awakening.
Okay.
The way he says that, he goes, there's no way, like, everybody's going to know what the truth is and what the truth isn't.
Right.
And that's the whole point of this Great Awakening.
We won't have the choice to believe that 9/11 happened because of a bunch of terrorists, because we'll know exactly what's happened. Basically, what we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board.
Yep.
And one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent, and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point, the loser can only prolong the game. The game, both players know the game is over. It's only a matter of time before he does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he's forced to do this, and eventually checkmate. We, as a race, if we can understand that the game is over, that based on the rules of the game, the bad guys have already lost, the good guys have already won. Yes, there's moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that is going to win. The only way that checkmate can't happen is if the player that's winning makes a mistake. But from all of the information that I've gathered, all of the information that's been given, all of the information that's been vetted to me, it seems pretty obvious that the good guy player on the side of the chessboard knows exactly what has to be done to win the game.
And remember, this is before 2012.
Wow.
And
We're seeing all that now. Like he's telling us what we are seeing right now. Pretty much.
Yes. Let me see if I can get
Out that they call time.
225 is where I got to be here. Let's see here.
You go
Close. This is where he talks about the underground hiding and that kind of stuff.
extraordinary means to develop that ability inside themselves without any outside help or assistance. And it's quite obvious that as far as advanced intellectual abilities, as far as simple intelligence levels, and cognitive skills of the human race has increased exponentially in the past 20 years. And people that were 10 years old in 1991 are now 30 years old and fully awake and conscious of this burning inside that says, I am a lot more than what I see in the mirror.
Mm.
Absolutely. Okay. I do have a question in regard to what the military-industrial complex has been working on. Because with the knowledge that you say they have, assuming that they have this level of knowledge that you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, of the timelines converging and the fact that there was going to be something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw the movie or the TV show Fast Forward. I mean, but there's been so many possible, scenarios in that regard. But one of the things that goes on is they are very busy building underground bases, supposedly underground cities. And so they seem to be hedging their bets for the negative timeline
Mm-hmm.
and putting their emphasis there.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say that that is because why would somebody want something negative to come true? Well, of course, the Illuminati have a program that they're working on in that regard. But basically, the sort of well-meaning military that just goes after contingencies,
Mm-hmm.
and is just working towards a future that they want to prevent or deal with when it comes. Can you explain why they have been hedging their bets to such a degree on the negative?
It's very simple. They're insane. And beyond insane, they have literally deluded themselves into believing that they can somehow manage to get away with what they're trying to get away with.
That's what we're experiencing right now, and that's why everything is just so crazy right now.
Crazy right now. People are, it's just like, what's going on? Yeah.
Because they put all their eggs in one basket and they rolled double snake eyes, and now they're trying to take it out on the rest of us and try to take us down with them. And I mean,
exactly. That's what's going on. They're trying to take us down with them because they know they already lost. So, hey, that's how the enemy does. He knew his destiny already, which he's already been judged, and he knew he's doomed to eternal hell or the eternal damnation or whatever you want to call it. But now he's just trying to take the rest of God's children with him. You know what I'm saying?
And you can think of the two chess players as God and Satan. I mean, Satan's already know he's lost.
He knows, yes.
he's just trying to take as many people with him. And so I hope that gives people a little bit of hope, knowing that, this is already something it's already been won. This is all just playing out to get rid of the chaff, get rid of the rats off the sinking ship, to weed out the last of the evil. So we never have to experience this again. And
yes. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
Leave out all the evil so we don't have to experience this again.
We got a little off the subject of time travel, but I think it has to do with being able, that looking glass technology, to be able to look and peer into the possible futures, and knowing that at some point those timelines converge and there's no going back. Like, there's nothing, no matter what anybody does, no matter, what kind of crazy stuff you throw at people. And you can see right now, all this crazy stuff happening around the world. I mean, there's just so much craziness. Yes. And, thanks.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says nice at.
Oh yeah.
But I know. I feel like I'm so blessed to be alive right now, that to experience or to witness what's going on. I think that every so often in history, people are just blessed to be around to witness these kind of events. And I think this is going to be one of the biggies in history. I mean, I think we've got a whole wonderful world ready to unroll for us here in the near future. And but we need more people together than apart. And I think the whole trying to divide people, the whole division, whether it's, race or otherwise, religion, whatever it happens to be, they know that if they can keep people divided, it'll take longer to get to that future, to get to that promised land, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. But
exactly. Yeah. So true. Yeah, this is the end game. And I think, everybody should definitely stay hopeful and trust and believe God, because God is in control. And just like Sidney Powell and the others have said, this is going to be biblical, and biblically it's already won. It's already done. It's just like how we remember Jesus on the cross. He finished the work on the cross. The enemy has been stripped from his power. He's been defeated. Now it's up to us to go into all the world and to do what we have to do for humanity, and to be used by God to manifest, God's will, and make this thing, done. We're getting ready to go into a brand new world, and it's going to take all of us, like you said, to come together and work together for the good, for the common good.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the pain is because people are struggling. I think that people are placing too much on people, like we'll say number 45 and others, like General Flynn and others, to do the work for them, to kind of have that I'm going to sit on the sideline kind of mentality, and hopefully this works out the way I hope it does, and we've talked about this in the last show. It's like, never in a million years would I be sitting in front of a camera talking about this stuff just because. It's just like, I feel like it's at least something that I can contribute. If it opens somebody's mind even just a little bit to something they may not have looked at before or thought about, then I feel like I've done something. But I have to get it off my chest. I can't. I've already lost a ton of friends in this whole thing, and I'm not gonna say family members. They're a little more standoffish, that kind of thing. So, but luckily I have a wife that's very supportive, and even though she may not agree 100% with everything I do, she agrees with what I'm doing. And I hopefully this kind of show is a little more fun than the other shows that we do, that touches on a few more subjects that are out of the political realm and out of the, mainstream news kind of realm. And, you know, because you got to have fun. Yeah, you gotta, even if it's not right, even if you're speculating, you know, that's part of it. You know, you gotta have,
that's part of the fun.
You know, and like I said at the beginning, I don't claim any of this is true. It's just stuff that interests me, and I know it interests you. And take it for what it is, and do your own research before Google scrubs the internet.
Right.
And, even now, if I remember, I think they were talking about, if they haven't already, buying up like DuckDuckGo, which is the other kind of search engine that you can go to
right.
find some things before they're scrubbed. I know they've already bought, again, my understanding is correct, the Wayback Machine, if you're familiar with that. But
wow, what's that?
There's a website called the Wayback Machine that basically archived old versions of websites. So if somebody can come back and say, no, we never said that, or we never posted that, or, you know, Wikipedia is famous for that. So you can go back and look at the original version of the web page before they changed it and know exactly what they had. So, but I think that's been a lot of money's been thrown at that to take that off to get scrubbed. So, but we're winning. And I think subjects like time travel, I think next episode, maybe we'll talk about Antarctica a little bit. And because I know there's a lot of people that, whether you believe in a flat earth or not, Antarctica always seems to come up in every conversation, whether, you know, it's military bases, alien bases, flat earth, whatever. It always seems to come up. So, so maybe we'll do that one next and go down that rabbit hole a little bit.
Yeah, I think that'll be real good. And those who are watching, make sure you guys subscribe and click that bell. You'll be able to get some notifications, you know, on when we'll be doing the show again. And let's stay in contact. Definitely, you know, follow myself and John on Telegram and the other stuff. I'm sure he'll have that in the description. And that was an awesome video, man. I mean, you have some very, very good information, and I mean, I'm just blown away from that, man. That's just amazing, especially that last video that was.
There's
2008 or something. I mean, like, we're seeing all that now, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. There's all kinds of, like I said, I don't know if you ever watched the X-Files, but
yes,
there was a group of guys called the Lone Gunmen. They were the guys that kind of in the background, you know, like kind of like the nerds, the geeks, the whatever. They would always seem to help out Mulder and Scully when they were in a pinch for information or some government insight or some secret intel or whatever. I was one of those guys, you know. I was always in the background, you know. I didn't want to be known about for anything, you know. I just doing research, you know, just constantly. When the internet first came to be, I was in chat rooms and whatever, going down deep dives and that kind of stuff, and trying to get back then photocopies of government documents and that kind of thing. You know, half of them would be black because they were all redacted, and, you know, going down the NASA rabbit hole, that kind of stuff. So it's just, it's fun now because technology is advanced enough that for the most part, information is pretty freely available, and it's fun to do your own research, and it's fun to see what other people, what their take is on something. Like I don't follow Carrie Cassidy a whole lot. I've seen some of her videos, but she does have a website called Project Camelot, and if you Google that, she has an archive of a lot of her interviews and other videos. I think Dan Burrish, I don't know if I got the name right. I know the last name's right, but I'm not sure if the first name's right. But he's in that same league with Bill Wood, who was the guy in the video, as far as Project Looking Glass and whistleblower type people. So, so long story short, I don't know, whoever's been here the whole video, God bless you. I know we appreciate it very much. If you just joined us, we're getting ready to wrap up, but this video will end up getting put up on the YouTube channel. It'll get probably put up on a Rumble channel and BitChute and some other stuff. And we may end up creating a Telegram group or something for just this show, and that way we can kind of keep our political / personal telegrams separate from exploring the Matrix anyway. And so again, we're flying by the seat of our pants. This is the first episode, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I know I did. This was a nice release to just be able to sit and just talk about this stuff, and whatever, just blow off some steam.
It's definitely good. Appreciate it.
So everybody watching, thank you. God bless you. I want to say a special thanks to all the veterans and everybody else that are risking their lives every day and have given their lives to keep us free, and your families. I can't say that enough. I do appreciate that very much. And if you have any suggestions for future shows or anything like that, I'll leave an email in the link in the description of the video, I should say, that you can send suggestions or any comments or any whatever that you want to send. If you want to send me a new hat, that's cool.
I need one of those hats. That's a nice hat.
I don't know where I found this. I was just cruising around one day. It was like right after the election, and then I saw it just popped up on my feed somewhere, and I'm like, oh man, I got to have that. So I just kind of
Nice.
$30 later, there you go. I'm a hat guy. I love hats. I'm constantly wearing hats. Even though I don't have to, I like hats. I don't know what it is. I'm like Charlie Jordan that way, man. I always got to have some kind of hat on.
Yeah.
Of course, the interview I did with him, he wasn't wearing a hat.
Oh.
Only time I've seen him without a hat.
Wow. Shout out to Charlie, Lenora,
Yes,
and Greg.
Charlie, Delora, you guys, Prime Minister, anybody in that whole Galactic Federation channel that he had, the Elena Delon, I think was her name, who's she kind of channels Thor or whoever those interstellar beings are. I'd like to get her on the show too, if we can get her on. So if you got any connections to get her on, maybe we can talk to her sometime too.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I think it would. All right, guys. So thank you again. Love all you guys. Bless you. And we'll see you next time.